can continue to make them great.
Urban planning, sustainable development, community health, founding member of the Canadian AIDS Society. He was mayor of Winnipeg from 1998 to 2000.
More for industrial purposes, but the cleanup there has been really astonishing. I have to give a shout out actually to Sheila Cops, who did a lot of great work at Harvard. And I think these are the kind of things we should aspire to, because we know we can do better, and it's really about how do we, the importance of protecting our Great Lakes and our Indigenous peoples, and we have to learn more for them and work with the traditional knowledge, because it's about the future for everyone.
Thank you. And more on that, and Josephine Vandeman is on the next.
So we're now going into having come out of an era of backfilling and having to sort of substitute into a relationship with the federal government where we are fully engaged in establishing the what you talked about, not just the.
How do we look at the Great Lakes through this lens, and what are we doing about it?
I think with renewed optimism. I think, kudos to Canada yesterday for, along with the EU, bringing us over the finish line here and putting in effect COP21 and the efforts that Minister McKinnon and many others worked on in this short year, really, of coming together and doing this work. The recognition that we have a problem by 200 world leaders, the recognition that we need to do something about it, and now the implementation of making that happen. I had the benefit, are focused on this. And if corporations are focused on it and they see that they have responsibilities not just to their clients, not just to their shareholders, not just to their employees, but also to their community, and have a social conscience. And I think that that's expanding quite a bit within the United States. So I'm very optimistic in terms of what we have to deal with. The problem is it's large. When you start talking about 400 parts of carbon in the air that we can't, what are we going to do now? We're not going to be able to bring that down. So we have a lot of work to do, but we have the mindset and we have the will, and I believe we have the skill to get this done. And so good news, but oh my gosh, a lot of work to do.
Minister, Canadians and a tenth of Americans live all around here, and what we've done to those lakes.
Yeah, climate change. I spend all of my time now just worrying about it, but also
Can you sleep at night?
Thinking about the opportunities. I'm so tired. Yeah, I sleep fine. But I do wake up in the middle of the night and try to think about the solutions to thorny issues, and there's no more thorny an issue than climate change, because it impacts everything. You can't talk about water quality or clean air or biodiversity without thinking about climate change. And we're going in the wrong direction, obviously, but just generally leadership on tackling climate change. It's been amazing, and now we're coming to the table. In terms of the Great Lakes, it's great that through the 2012 agreement, we're now working together to look at the science, to understand the impacts of climate change. But we already see the impacts of climate change on the Great Lakes, and we're at the early stages of this. So when you see water temperatures increasing, decrease in the sea ice, and extreme weather events. And extreme weather events has unintended consequences because they wash off, with big storms, they wash off more phosphorus, which contributes to more algal blooms. So this is a huge issue, and looking in the future, concerns about decreased water and have the impact on wetlands. We may lose our wetlands. So that's the doom and gloom piece, but I'm an optimistic realist, like I think all of us here. So it's just time that we get to work, that we understand the science, that we understand adaptation. We're going to have to adapt to the impacts of climate change, but that we also get really serious about climate action generally, which is what we're trying to do. And I have to thank all of you in the room, because I know you all care. You care about the Great Lakes, you care passionately, and if I don't have a chance to thank you for all your great work, it is absolutely appreciated. I also want you to amplify the message on climate action.
It's really important to not just talk about
about it in the abstract. I think those of us in the room understand it's a pressing problem, and it's something that will impact generations to come. It's already having an impact. You know, one way to talk about it is to really localize the impact. So here in the Great Lakes, we know, for example, that Lake Superior is one of the fastest warming lakes in the world. We anticipate that temperatures will rise between 9 and 12 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of the century. But what does that exactly mean? What does that mean? That means, for example, we should anticipate that, as we talked about before with harmful algal blooms, warmer waters will incubate those very kinds of dynamics that contribute to harmful algal blooms in the first place. We have seen harmful algal blooms in Lake Superior recently, whereas we have really never seen them before. And luckily, localized areas of Lake Superior, but that's troubling. It means a more hospitable Great Lakes for invasive species when we have spent hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more, trying to block invasive species and control invasive species. It means more precipitation and stormwater when our cities are already struggling to keep up with what's being thrown at them vis-a-vis the weather. It means cold water species. Let's face it, we love the outdoors in this region. Outdoor recreation is part of our culture. Cold water fish species that some of us love to go fishing for will take a hit. That's the doom and gloom, more localized or regionalized. On the good news side of things, for the first time ever, when we renegotiated the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement, thanks to Mike Goffin's leadership and his team at Environment Canada, we included a climate change annex provisions in the agreement to deal with climate change. And here's my final thought on this.
Unfathomable and unthinkably cruel to our children. We know our boreal forest by mid-century. If we stay under 2 degrees Celsius, we'll be 8 degrees Celsius warmer in the winter and 4 degrees Celsius warmer. Now, we're not right now tracking anywhere near to under 2, even the minute, of which the livability is in question. And we're still having a political debate about that. We can't do anything about that. So from my perspective, we've already paid a grossly exaggerated, horrible price for our inaction for the last 50 years. We're already erasing too many species and putting our children's lives. Everything else we manage in the public sector, we manage in the safe zone. This is the only issue we're glad we're managing globally in the extreme danger zone. So, we're now entered today, and we've launched ourselves in a race against time to keep it under 2. And I think this is the best expression of it. Thank you.
And I think this is the real opportunity. I was a year old when the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement came into force. It's going to be 45 years. That's exciting. And this is really, we're working with Indigenous peoples. We've learned, we're going to figure it out. We're going to innovate. We're going to, figure out a way forward. And I think this is the opportunity when you see different people who haven't always come together, who are now so committed, and citizens around the world coming together. This is the opportunity. This is the shot, and we're going to do it.
Ambassador.
So I'm going to stay on this crisis. I will tell you that we have a commitment of the new generation of millennials, and many of which are here, to a better, cleaner world. And I am incredibly optimistic, not only the path of our young people, but the path of the people who are experiencing the Great Lakes and our two countries together. I think the optimism that I have in all the dialogues that I participated in Washington and Ottawa, in small towns, and even the recognition when I spent 15 different stops across the Arctic, visiting with the Inuit and talking about the climate change that's taking place. And even they who are recognizing it have a degree of optimism and shared focus and looking to the future. So I am very optimistic. It is a big challenge, but we are all in this room, online, and everywhere else, we're working together to get this done. Sure, there are always some disbelievers out there, but they're fewer in number, their impact is a lot less, and we have to continue to tell our story. And if we do, we will have a very bright future, and I'm very optimistic.
as we were getting next generation, being ready, us giving you guys the tools that you need to keep making better and better decisions. And and the Great Lakes is a laboratory for that kind of pan-generational thinking and acting that we need to do.
So
Minister.
I was not intending to be a pessimist, quite the opposite.
Oh, I just about killed us. But it was true, sadly.
It is true, and let me be very clear, because in the words of Christiana Figueres, I'm an unrelenting optimist. But I see the cup not as overflowing, but as half full. And I think we have to be realists. And why do wars stop? They stop because the casualty and the body count is so high, or the kinds of weapons we have to use are so unforgivable, and the measures are so inhumane that we stop and we look at ourselves and we say, this is not what human beings are. We are hopeful and optimistic. In this war, the body count is locked in for the next 30 years. Too many people, probably in the millions, are going to die. Too many species are going to be lost. That's not being a pessimist, that's being a realist. And there are still way too many people who are in too powerful positions who are still doing too much to obstruct them. And in the AIDS epidemic, I was in front of the White House, the Reagan White House, with my friends getting arrested, and we're in candid conversation about the price we're already doing to the lakes, the fish, the communities, and our children. It is too high already, and I am an optimist that at one point we're going to do, because all we have to do is buy local food, retrofit your home to be net zero, buy an electric car. You don't have to go off to war. You know, this is the easiest battle to win. Our lives will be better. The choices are simple. They're happy choices that make your life better. There's no conflict that you have to have. You just have to live a low carbon life, and it's a fabulous life. Let's get on it. The price we're paying to have that's holding us back from having a healthy life is one of the greatest insanities in human history. So I am an optimist, but let's get the cup overflowing, because Paris got us halfway there, and we got.
So much for taking the time to be here today, and your thoughts and perspectives and your personal reflections, I think, were hugely impactful on the audience here, and we really appreciate it. We're going to do a quick change of chairs. We've got a fabulous panel coming up with all sorts of